Hello, everybody. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. I hope this live feed or recording finds you well. Been dealing with some super interesting technical challenges the last couple of days. So much so that my guest, you can see here with the artwork, Michael Buckner, was scheduled to go live with me on Wednesday, March 13th. And for some of you that were paying attention to the interwebs and the news, Facebook had a global outage right as we were, well, hopefully Michael and I didn't cause that. But right as we were going live, Facebook broke worldwide. I can hear many of you now probably saying that it's our fault. And anyway, we weren't able to go live. So we're coming to you live today. And I hope you're having a great Friday. Let me go ahead and there's my name. And today is Friday, March 15th. It is about 12:45 p.m. On this beautiful afternoon here in sunny Florida. And what is going on? Business is great here at One Firefly. Life is good, super busy, lots going on. I may have caught some of you, or maybe you had a chance to watch the Sonnen webinar yesterday where I was a moderator. And here in a few days, actually at the end of this month, is going to be the Azione conference out in Florida. And hopefully I'll be able to see some of you there. I am going to just splash up on the screen real quick. Upcoming lineup here for guests. So here you can see, rather than on the 13th, today is the 15th. We have Michael Buckner with Audio Intersection. And we also have integrators, really the balance of this month. So we've got Mark from Miro Concepts out of Austin, Texas. And we have Eric Thies out of DSI. And another fella joining us here at the end of the month. So an exciting lineup of guests. And without further ado, let me bring in the one and only Mr. Michael Buckner. There we are. There's Michael. Michael, how are you?
Hello, Ron. I'm great. How about yourself?
We are persistent, aren't we? We're going to make this interview happen no matter what.
That's right.
I appreciate your patience as we've been fighting these technology gremlins.
Yeah, good times.
Good time. Do you ever run into technology gremlins out on your projects, or does that ever happen to you?
Never. Only in my house.
Yeah, I imagine. And you hear from your better half when those happen, right?
That's right. A mechanic drives a smoking car.
I understand. All right, let me take a look over here, Michael. Let me make sure we are, in fact, live on Facebook, and it looks like we are. And for those of you listening to the recording, or you're listening to us after the fact on the podcast, or you are watching us after the fact, thanks for watching. If you are listening out there, here I see Sean is signed in, or Sean is watching. He gave us a thumbs up. If you're out there, don't be shy about asking questions or providing comments as we go along here. Those are always super valuable. And at least on the video side, I'll splash those up on the screen, and I'll also do my best to moderate and read those out as we go. So, Michael, some of our audience may not know you. They may have heard of you, but maybe they don't know you personally, or know your business and your role within Bravas and all sorts of exciting things. So, can you give our audience a little bit of your background? I put it in the bio, so if they're reading it on Facebook, they can read that. But can you kind of give your own version in your words?
Yeah, so I think probably the first thing that comes out of my mouth when people ask me about my history is that I started taking apart TVs at about 9 years old, and it's just like a lot of us as integrators. I say that I was born into this. Worked since I was 16 years old in the electronics industry. starting with Walmart. I've been up and down and in the trenches. I've worked at the flea market, putting in car audio. Finally made it through college, worked for a manufacturer, worked for Pioneer, traveled the country, worked the CES booths, SEMA car show, all kinds of fun stuff in that industry. And as mobile electronics began to dwindle, and also working for Pioneer, being the leading manufacturer of plasma panels, the home industry really grabbed hold of me stronger than ever. And I made that transition back about 13 years ago. Started Audio Intersection back in 06. Seemed like a great time to start a business, but right before the Great Recession. And we weathered the storm and came out the backside with a process in place. Probably my most proud achievement thus far is that I have a team of men and women that are happy to come to work every day. And that was the most difficult, not that making money is not also incredibly difficult, but making money and staying happy, not killing yourselves to get there. And that's where we reside now. Like I say, I'm really happy with my team that I have at Audio Intersection. Couldn't be more thrilled with daily operations that everybody knows their part and they love coming to work every day. And in the greater conversation that has led me to think about working, the old adage, working on your business instead of in your business. And that led me to Steve First and Paul Starkey with Vital Management, and subsequently with the Bravas Group, which we are a network of dealers across the country dedicated to improving ourselves through better business practices, information sharing. Paul Starkey calls it the open kimono, meaning that there are no secrets. We talk about our business without any reservation whatsoever. It's a very humbling experience because no matter how well any one person thinks that they're doing, there's another category of their business that someone else is doing better at that you can learn from. So it's been a fantastic experience. I am part of their corporate initiative, which is just a group of guys getting together additionally, rather than just being business owners within our own local area, but also we formed sort of an umbrella structure to try to eliminate some redundancies across the country, help each other with certain efforts. And I, being the marketing director, am trying to standardize marketing practices between our members and organize our spend a little bit better. And that's been a great challenge for the past year or so.
Question. So you started Audio Intersection in 2006, I see.
Right.
And I started, what is One Firefly in 2007, so even closer to that Great Recession launch in 2008. I timed it perfectly. And what lessons did you learn having, birthed your business, right? Maybe you had about a good 12-month runway before the crash, maybe a year and a half, but you were able to survive through that. What were some of your takeaways, or what were some of the factors maybe that resulted in you being the business you were, that were a result of you starting during that recession?
So my favorite saying that actually came from a client of mine right in the middle of that time when we were talking about all this. He's a lot older than me. He was in his, I think 70-ish. And he's a business owner, been very successful over the years. And he looked at me nice and calm and soft in the middle of all the storm. And he said, "Hey man, this should remind you to always be one man and one van short." And I said, "Okay." He said, never hire before the business is there. Hire in reaction to the business and you not being able to keep up. And so who cares if you're going through a recession or not, as long as you've got the amount of people that's appropriate to the level of volume that you have. I mean, that's it. And it's all summed up in that sweet little sentence. And
I love that. That is simple and sweet. And I think it's a testament of fortitude when a business can be created in a hard time like that. And I think those are resilient businesses and business people and business leaders that are able to, survive, and then they're well prepared to thrive when markets get better. And I think
we were so brand new, we had nothing to lose. So it's
right.
not, I knew, on a serious note, there were a lot of good contractors that it crumbled because they had all these builder relationships that were great. And then one day in 2007, 2008, these guys put their tools down, walked off the job, and stopped paying their bills. And, I was lucky because I didn't have that huge accounts receivable list that a lot of our fellow integrators did. So, that was the other, I'll call it a secret sauce, but it was the secret of being broke.
Sure. Now, you also, just to dive a little bit deeper, so you, prior to starting your integration firm, you were with Pioneer Electronics. Was that like on the car audio side of the equation?
Yeah, so it was, they call it mobile electronics division. So there's MEHE, there's DJ, there were all these different divisions within Pioneer. But we all got together as one large company, Pioneer North America, and would get together and talk technology. So it was really the best of both worlds. I got to talk about what I was extremely familiar with, which was the car stuff, and then got introduced to the plasma technology. And boy, hated to see those Pioneer plasmas go, like a lot of people watching this.
Well, those were the 15K a pop and 50 points, or they were super profitable, right?
And that's it. I thought I was getting such a deal as an employee. I paid like $3,500 for a 50-inch plasma, and I look back on that like, wow. Still a beautiful panel, though. I bet it's still in the house that I sold it with.
Oh, yeah, for sure. When I was, I started in the industry, as I've said many times on the podcast, back in 2000. And so I was, a young buck out there traveling the country, visiting integrators and visiting their showrooms, and just wowed and awed by these, this new plasma television technology that were, $15,000, $20,000 to hang on your wall. And now look what you can get for $600. I'm not going to lie, downstairs in my living room, I bought I'm a little shy to say this, but I bought a 65-inch beautiful display. I don't think it's 4K, but it's a beautiful image. And it was $600
right
at Costco. That's crazy.
Yeah, we say, the funny analogy to me is that, imagine if cars did this. If all of a sudden you could buy a 4-door sedan for $1,000 just because the price erosion was the same as television. I mean, it's just wild.
Innovation would be much, much different. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of, and I meant to have this up, but I'll at least, I'll throw up your website, and maybe you linked to it from your website. So let me put this up on the screen here. One of the things I wanted to mention is that you did just recently have a nice cover story on Seee Pro. You had a beautiful project, and is there a chance that I can access that through your website here? I was just going to share that with our audience. They may get a kick out of that.
Boy, isn't that bad marketing, being the marketing director, and I don't have a link to the
your wonderful story. Oh no, I'm not trying to call you out.
So it's
that's
on
funny.
my Audio Intersection Facebook, I believe.
If I go to Google and if I type something in, will I get that story? What could I type into Google? Let's do it live here.
Yeah, Seee Pro, Michael Buckner, no Romex.
All right. See, this was on purpose, Michael, because we wanted to actually show the world the power of search engine optimization and the power of the Googles. So there you go. So you got this pretty. I remember reading this, and I wanted to make sure I brought this up here.
Yeah.
And this from a marketing angle. One is, how did you come to have Seee Pro actually feature this story? And then can you tell the audience a little bit about that project?
Sure. So LumaStream was sort of on my radar the very first time they showed up at CEDIA. We're talking about low voltage lighting. And I just, at the time, had a house. So if I were to have done any of it for myself, which I try my best to always be the science laboratory, not my customers' houses. And so it wasn't a fit at the time for me to give it a shot, but I remembered it in the back of my mind that, hey, this is a pretty cool category. And basically, I'm sorry, I'm watching you scroll too. I'll try to pay it.
Yeah, you can't watch. I'm doing that for the audience. I'm giving them some visuals while you describe this project.
Yeah. So I built this house that you see here. And in doing so, contacted LumaStream, said, hey, look, I am still in the design phases of my home, but I am very interested in doing a low voltage lighting system throughout. I had been hearing at ProSource meetings and basically any collaborative meeting with a bunch of integrators how low voltage lighting was the next big wave, and we need to figure it out as soon as possible. So they flew me down, and by the way, I mean, a little plug here for LumaStream, paid for the hotel, the training, hung out and did their step-by-step guide on how to put this in your house. It was incredibly simple, by the way. Instead of pulling Romex to all your can lights, you pull, at the time it was 18 tube plus a drain. Now they have this new tunable system that I didn't properly pre-wire for, apparently, because you need 18.4 with a drain. So
where you could actually change the color temperature.
That's right. So now I'm the victim of being an early adopter, but hey, I think we talked about that Pioneer TV earlier, so not the first time that's happened. But hey, in all honesty, it doesn't matter, because the way that this looks is absolutely completely different than the way it would have looked had I put in high voltage cans with LED bulbs. I would still argue a little bit better, even still, as there are plenty of high voltage fixtures still that we can buy as, like, I don't want to throw names, brands out there, but there are other brands that you can go Romex straight into the fixture and you don't pull the low voltage wiring. I'm not really sure that they can pull off how fancy this really does look. I mean, it's, I think.
Are these lights dimmable?
They are, and they call it logarithmic dimming, which I think is a fancy way of saying that as you walk over to a Lutron keypad, which I have a Lutron homework system, very normal panel with a handful of high volt fixtures. In fact, kind of funny, they say only low voltage, and then right there in that pretty photo is 2 high voltage fixtures I have over my kitchen island. It's almost impossible to do a 100% low voltage system. You're going to wind up with a couple of high voltage pieces here and there. Floodlights are another good example of high voltage fixtures that I needed. But the dimming from the Lutron keypad is so smooth and so without any feature loss whatsoever. And the fact that it goes to the 0.1%, it gets as dim as you need. Instead, no flicker like you see when you stick twist an LED bulb into a high voltage fixture. As you start to go down and dimming, the lights start to flicker like almost like a strobe light. None of that. I've been in the home now for about 8 months, and I've had 0 issues. So not 99% uptime, but 100% uptime. I mean, they've been absolutely perfect. And what's wild is that as the sun goes down and I turn my lights on, I start with sort of a medium light load. The way that the lights, even though they're not tunable, as they bright and dim, you notice that they warm up in color as they go down in dimming level. And it absolutely is true what everyone has been saying about these fixtures, where the better your lighting is in the home, the better you can sleep, the more your body's not staying up because of that blue light that LEDs tend to give off. I moved from a house, we made a couple of hops. I moved into a rental before we moved into this one as I was building, and that rental was full of the LED bulbs, and there was such a huge difference in how quickly I go to sleep. It was a night and day difference when we moved in. It's absolutely true.
Now, do you, just so for everyone watching here, do you use your home as a laboratory where you're bringing new technologies and regularly disrupting your normal method of interacting with tech in your house?
Absolutely.
And if so, kind of how does that dynamic work, and how does your spouse appreciate that or not?
I don't recommend it to anyone.
Okay.
But it's a love. It's a labor of love. Some of the stuff I've been testing lately is really exciting. I guess, yeah, I can say it because they had it at their booth. There's some stuff coming out soon from Elan with some facial recognition related to their touch screens, where now you're going to be able to create a different interface based on who walks up to the touch screen. And that's pretty cool. So I'm hoping to get into that soon. Again, I'm sure my wife's just going to love it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are they gonna, for my knowledge, is that touch panel from Elan or that UI update, is that gonna, when it recognizes you, is it delivering you a different UI with your own presets and your own favorites and things like that because it knows who you are?
So yeah, so my wife tends to walk up to the screen to see the cameras.
Okay.
I walk up to the screen to play music. So two totally different things. So now, or not now, I mean, I'm getting there, but very soon I'll be able to walk up to it and it'll go straight to my Pandora channels, and she'll go straight up to her camera interface. And the same thing's about to be true, and I am getting ready. The cameras are going to have intelligence built in them as well, so that when you walk up to the house, it recognizes you and it can go ahead and create scenes and make lights and whatever it is. Like, I'm a heavy metal fan. My wife just loves that. So it'll come on to my hard rock. And if she comes in, it'll come on to her other stuff. So speaking of facial recognition with Elan, and I'm hearing it first from you. So I guess it's public knowledge, but maybe I wasn't tapped into that. Or maybe it's not, and you're breaking the news. I don't know. I don't think so.
If Elan has any issues with this getting out, go to Michael Buckner and I'll give him your email address.
Hey, this is stuff they had at their booth, so I'm not saying anything new. And I don't have it in my house. I haven't tested it yet, but I'm getting ready to. I'm getting pretty excited about it.
So what if we look at 2019, right? So we're we're already 9 weeks in, 10 weeks into the new year. What are some of the technologies or product categories that have you really excited, that you're already starting to make money selling and promoting, or just generally have you excited?
So the continuation of the fixtures, like the LumaStream stuff we were just talking about, my guys, my salespeople are talking about them. They're putting them in houses. Really excited about the opportunities, not only in the home, but outside the home. I think what I heard stated in a way that I never really thought about before at the lab, one of the several trade shows this past year, was low voltage guys are in a unique situation, because if we do shades and we do indoor low voltage fixtures and we do outdoor low voltage fixtures, we are 100% in control of the way a person's home it looks and feels. So we can now tell designers that we are in complete control of the ceiling, for example, the way that everything looks, so that we don't have a bunch of ceiling warts everywhere, or if the cans and the speakers aren't symmetrical with each other because the electrician and the low voltage guy weren't talking to each other. Another example that actually came up that was an opportunity for us is if you sell shades and the customer looks through the shades, they hang them to the window and they say 1%, that light looks great for me. And then we install the shades and then they turn on the light to their bedroom at night and someone else is outside looking in and go, oh my God, I can see you perfectly fine because it's dark outside, and then you're on the inside lit up. It doesn't matter that you have 1% shades, I can still see inside. Well, what's awesome about us as low voltage integrators is we can solve that problem by simply sticking an outdoor light, firing up at the window, and it will wash the image of you being inside and fix that problem. So to me, what's exciting is the fact that low voltage has now gotten around the whole home in a way that gives us more ability to create a custom experience more than we've ever been able to. And if you take that farther, I mean, you've got the low voltage fixtures, then you also have us being the only guys really that know how to fix voice recognition for the home make it work the way it's supposed to, and not just telling you the weather, but actually, controlling your home with it in a way that's useful and not just a novelty. That's pretty exciting stuff. Facial recognition is pretty exciting to me, but in both of those categories, both voice and facial recognition, I'm anxious to start doing this for our customers in a private way instead of using an Amazon Alexa to do it, where they're stealing your data or whatever, recording your conversations, and if you don't know, man, holy crap.
Well, before you tell these secrets, let me just ask you, are you currently selling voice, and or are your customers demanding it or requesting it?
Yeah, I don't think my sales guys and me also, I will include in this, we're not anxious to introduce someone to voice that isn't asking about it so much, unless I see a need. Like, I don't know, hard to think of something right off the fly, but we've had some clients say, what do you think about voice? And we say, well, okay, here's the deal. I mean, we can make it do absolutely anything you want to do, but you may want to have to write some things down. Only recently, by the way, and with my house being that science lab again, I figured out, and if you don't know, go into the routines button of the Amazon Alexa, and you can fix one at a time, so it's tedious, but fix the thing where you have to say turn on and turn off to certain things, because no matter if you're Control4, Elan, whoever, most of the control systems, when you tie it to Alexa, require you to say turn on good night, which means, okay, shut down the house. If you go into the routines section of the Amazon Alexa app, you can edit what you say, and you can just say, Alexa, good night. And that'll actually shut the whole house down and do what it needs to. Or Alexa, I'm home is the other one that I have now that'll turn all the system on and make it do things. So that's nice. But the other thing about the Alexa app is if you dig through the settings, you can actually go in and see your own recordings and what Amazon is recording of you. And it will record you if it is a thing, if the system thinks that you said, Alexa, maybe. And so it just might be you and your wife talking in the kitchen about this guy who had a Rolex watch, and that thing will come up thinking, did he say Alexa? Maybe. And so you get to hear this whole conversation that you and your wife have about some guy you met at work today.
And you can replay it.
Yeah, and delete them, luckily. But you have to delete them one at a time, and it's creating these little snippets that are tiny, and it's doing hundreds of them, and it takes forever to delete them. So it's not something that I think me, our customers, none of us are going to just go in and do that.
I'm going to jump to a couple more topics here. 5G, when does it impact you as an integrator, and when does it impact your customer?
So we've got a lot of, so we're in North Georgia as much as we're in Atlanta. And
by the way, I've got Maggie. She's just posted a comment. She said she's currently right down the street from you.
Oh, nice. Hey, Maggie.
Michael also has a coffee shop. So Maggie, you should stop in and have a coffee at his store.
Yeah. So the 5G is going to make the biggest difference for us, I hope, in the rural areas, because T-Mobile and Sprint have already, in their attempt to merge, have been making it obvious to Congress that what they want to do is use the opportunity of the merger and of the 5G transition at the same time to provide low-cost, high-speed internet to people that otherwise were outside the fiber loop or whatever. North Georgia speaks to that highly because we've got tons of clients that are still getting 6 to 10 megs. It's just almost unusable internet speeds. And I think 5G getting everybody, that's just like step one. All of a sudden, everybody's got a gigabit connection in their home. From there, oh my God, all the things we can now do in their home because of that connection is limitless. But more so, I think what we're going to see with 5G is all the ancillary devices before that had too much latency to really be relevant. Cars talking to each other. We know that's going to be a big one with autonomy. 5G is going to help with that. Medical equipment. Again, there's so many things it's outside of our scope.
But when do you see the 5G radio being embedded or products, and when do you think it works into the lexicon of a normal sales interaction with your customer base? Or is there gonna be like a point where that happens, or is it just gonna be a slow transition and really no milestone on the calendar you could point to?
So I think it's going to be up to the customer in some respects, because some people are fine with their iPhone 7 and some people jump and stand in line for the iPhone 10 or 10s, whatever. However, I think because there's already going to be so many billions of dollars in infrastructure invested by T-Mobile and everybody else, I mean, every cell company, and Dish, by the way, if you didn't know, Charlie, the owner or CEO of Dish, made it a point to purchase something like 60% of the 5G spectrum. I mean, it's a large majority of the spectrum that he has that's completely unused. But as these guys jump in and offer amazing products, I think the adoption rate is going to be incredible. I mean, we see every new technology, the adoption rate being faster and faster. So whether that was, I mean, it goes all the way back. I mean, when everybody went from CDs to MP3s, the adoption rate was faster than everybody went from tapes to CDs, and then from MP3. I'm dating myself right now.
Hey man, I remember on my college campus hiking across campus and paying the one kid with a CD burner $50 to burn a CD of MP3s, and he had this little racket going.
When MP3 CDs came out and you could stick 100 songs on one disc, I was like, oh my God, this is the wave of the future. And then the iPod hit like 2 months later, and I sounded like an idiot. So, but hey, the iPhones. So satellite radio was another huge example of cable television took something like 10 years to get into every home. Satellite radio all of a sudden hit 30% penetration within a matter of 2 or 3 years. iPhones was, everybody had a smartphone within the first year of adoption of Blackberries and iPhones. I would see 5G following that kind of pattern. I bet you this time next year we'll be holding a 5G device, having this conversation, hopefully.
So a lot of our listeners are business owners or managers at varying stages, from large sophisticated businesses to smaller or you could be small and been in business for 30 years, or you could be small and you could be starting up. What's some advice you have for businesses? What's just 2 or 3 things that you think you've figured out at this point that's really you wish you knew when you started, but now? What would be a couple of those topics?
That's a good question. I have perspective in a couple of different ways. The fact that we're in that Bravas group and I get to talk to so many of these guys that are absolutely crushing it with numbers that are way bigger than mine. And then guys smaller, be happy. Number one, love what you do. That sounds so cliche, but and I thought it was cliche for years and years. It really wasn't until I think it was 2014. Yeah, 5 years ago that I really placed a priority on it. Strangely, it's a long story, but tiny little advice. Check out this country called Bhutan, Bhutan. Fantastic little bitty corner of the world. They're between Afghanistan, India, and China and Tibet. It's a little bitty spot in the Himalaya mountains. They don't pay attention to gross national product, which every other country in the world, we practically just measure ourselves on how much business we generate as a country. And they don't. They have GNH, gross national happiness. And they survey their people every year, and they try to do better every year on how happy they are in general with life. And on the one hand, I'm a libertarian, I guess, when it comes to government. And I think that's kind of crazy to think government's going to make you happier. But back to your question of what can you do to your business? Profitability comes from happiness as much as it comes from managing your bottom line and looking at all your numbers. I can tout a small strength in comparison. When I've been compared to others, one of the strengths of my company is net operating profit. So we make the most out of the money that comes in. And I think a lot of that is based around the fact that people don't just want a good paycheck. They want to be happy when they get there every day. And so I started focusing on what can I do to make your experience here better, more than just giving you a raise and thinking that you need to be happy based on the fact that I just paid you more money than you made last year. And it has made the biggest difference in our culture. I think the guys, your mentality, the way you think about life, the way you think about your people is going to trickle down if you're a business owner. And if you're in a bad mood a lot, your guys are going to be in a bad mood. And when you're happy and you're happy to see your guys, you make basic conversation for a second before they head out for the day. Those little incremental things make such a huge difference. And I'm thankful I went to that little bitty country. I highly recommend it.
So you went there yourself?
I did. And I mean, it looks just like something out of Ace Ventura, the big long staircase he walks up and then sits at the top with the Buddhist monks. It is very much like that. It's very, very cool. And I mean, there's not a lot of takeaways. There's not a lot of universal back and forth. Like you come back to the US and you're right back in the bubble of being absolutely nothing like Bhutan, except that the takeaway is, slow down for a second. Think about your happiness. Think about who you are. And not just be so focused on the revenue, and the revenue will come second. I mean, that's the great benefit, is that you're not abandoning wanting to make money. You're just looking at it from a different angle.
No, that's perfect. I appreciate that perspective. One last point that I'd love for you to touch on, and that is just at a high level. I know you're a member of a buying group. I think you're in ProSource. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of buying groups out there. I think there's Nationwide, HTSA, ProSource, Azion Unlimited.
Right.
There might even be some more that I'm not thinking of. You are a member of one. Why are you a member of one? And should those that are listening that are not currently in a buying group, should they be in one?
Well, I'll answer the last question first. Yes, you should be in a buying group. You should be trying to watch your equipment margins as tightly as possible. Hopefully your mixed margins are in the 60s. I don't want to go too deep into the numbers, but
you just said mixed margins. You might have just lost a bunch of people there.
Point being, hopefully you're selling products at a very profitable level. You're not selling products that are not profitable, and or products that are marketing to your customers. Some products out there do both of those things, have crappy margins, and they sell to your clientele after you plug in your customer's email into their registration. I'm sure most of you know who we're talking about. But, I chose ProSource as a sole business decision. It was purely based on my product mix. I wrote down every brand that I saw as a priority within my company. Everybody's got a different product mix in their own companies. Mine was, throw a few out there, like Sony televisions was a big deal for us. At the time, Control 4, we still are. We still sell a good bit of Control 4, and they're in ProSource. Yamaha. I mean, there's a few of them that I just really like. ProSource seemed to grab most of those, but after being in ProSource, I have to say that I haven't seen the others. I've heard very great things about all of them. They all help you sit down at a round table, talk to other business owners sideways. Think about the business as a game of golf where your competitors don't affect you as much as yourself. It's your own internal struggle that you got to focus on, and not what your competition is doing, I think, in this industry. Mm-hmm. And I think no matter which buying group you're in, they're going to do that. ProSource, probably some of their strengths is that they're member owned. We've actually gotten refunded our membership dues before, because we said, hey, with everybody's dues in Q1, 2, and 3, that paid the bills. And so there's no dues for Q4. I believe that was last year, Q4 for that. So
that's pretty cool.
So I really like ProSource, but I'm also speaking ignorant of the other buying groups. So I would just suggest to anyone that the buying group is definitely the answer, and you definitely have a great testimonial about ProSource from me, but educate yourself as to which one's right for you based on your product mix.
Now, you had mentioned, Michael, that you are on the executive team at Bravas, and is there any message you want for the audience that's listening just about Bravas? Is that something they should look into? Is that even still in the cards, or what would be the ways, or what message would you have for those listening as it relates to Bravas? Absolutely. You should definitely find out more about Bravas. Simple Bravas.com will give you the basics, but we are a whole lot more than what you can describe in a brochure.
you asked the question about, what's the message I have for folks, and I talked about being happy, but secondary to that was definitely Bravas. Steve First and Paul Starkey are visionaries, but they were at two totally different paths of life. Paul was a manufacturer's side of things. Steve was a business consultant. Steve was my business consultant and made a huge difference with the vital management program they put in place on all of my numbers, helping me figure out what to micromanage, because I'm not really big on micromanaging. I don't want to, but he helps you figure out, okay, he has this thing, labor revenues per tech. And if anybody watching gets these emails from Vital Management, they've probably heard that term before. But it's just a quick measure, a quick take of if your sales guy is selling enough labor and if your techs are making efficient use of that labor. And little things like that we get to pay attention to in Bravas make hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference in net operating profit for individual companies. I mean, individuals are making hundreds of thousands of dollars more. And as a group, I think the latest, it's in the millions of dollars that us as a group of 15, and then there's a larger associate group of 25 or so dealers, we have proven track record of creating millions of more dollars in revenue as a group by sitting down together and going over these metrics that Steve and Paul talk about. And I can't rave enough about what a difference it's made in my life. Bravas has definitely changed my life.
Well, I think that is a perfect point to end our chat today, Michael. I appreciate your perseverance despite Facebook outages on Wednesday, and then my streaming software's outage 10 minutes. Actually, at the moment we were scheduled to go live, and you hung in there and you said, "Ron, I'll hang out." All and so I appreciate your patience, and appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it as well.
Awesome. Michael, if those listening or watching want to get in touch with you personally, what is the best way to do that?
Man, it's easy as can be. Michael at audiointersection.com, just like the shirt says. And I'm happy.
All right. I'm going to stream that across. Let's see if I did this right. Let's see here. Michael. Well, looks like my keyboard has, if there aren't enough technical challenges, my keyboard just died. Wow, there's like this electronic vortex rolling around me here. So I will leave it at that, guys. You took the audio, Michael at audiointersection.com. You can reach out to Michael directly. And Michael, it was really a pleasure to have you on the show, bud. I'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, bud.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So there you have it. That was show number 68. We had Michael Buckner on from Audio Intersection. Let me just throw up a few pieces of artwork here just to, let's see if my computer will cooperate. Well, it looks like it will not. So we are going to call it a show then, ladies and gentlemen. And thanks so much for listening. All of my devices are going to hell right now. So I hope you're well, and I'll see you on the next show. Be well.